My name is Nora. I am now 18 years old and I have something to tell you. But before I go on, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any more awesome videos. My mom recently got remarried after my dad left her a couple of years ago. My stepdad has a son, Brentley, who is 17 years old. We got along really, really well. When I first laid my eyes on him, it was like an instant spark. You could say it was love at first sight. Everyone and anyone who knew him thought he was shy, but he was not like that with me. He has never really had a girlfriend from the time that I have known him. Some people thought he was gay. I just thought he was waiting for the right girl, aka me. Or he is saving himself for marriage, virgin stepbrother. We had a lot of fun together and would play video games and watch movies. We always stayed up late and would sneak out to go hang out with our friends. We did most of this stuff together, and our friends were really surprised by how well we got along. His dad worked for a company that would have paid trips, so him and my mom were out of town most of the time, which did not really bother me because I like having that alone time with him. That alone time made me realize how madly deep in love with him I was. One night while our parents were out for a date night, I heard him watching a movie in his room. I ran to my closet and picked out a tight-fitting dress. I wanted to show off my curves, while not wearing anything underneath. I slowly walked to his room and cracked the door. The lights were on and he motioned for me to come in. I closed the door behind me and sat on the bed with him. I asked him what movie he was watching to make conversation, but I got lost in his eyes and did not hear a word he said. I moved closer to him until we were softly touching, and we sat and talked while the movie was playing in the background. I was waiting for him to make a move. I was scared, so of course it was not going to be me that does it. When we got done with our conversation, he gave me a tight hug and said he was going to bed. I stood up a little disappointed that nothing happened, but I told him goodnight and went in my room. I remember a couple of other times stuff like this happened. Another night we had the house to ourselves watching a movie in the living room. We were under a big blanket I brought from my room. I rested my head on his shoulder to initiate cuddling. He put his arm around me. I looked up at him and he looked down at me and smiled, and I was sure he was going to kiss me, but once again nothing happened. One other time during the summer we went to the public pool. My mom dropped us off and said she was going to do errands, and that she would be back in a couple of hours. We walked through the door and went to a spot towards the back to put our stuff down. When I put my stuff down, I looked up and Brentley was in the middle of taking his shirt off. With the way the sun was hitting his skin, it was beautiful. I stared and was entranced. He looked over at me. I quickly looked down. I slowly took my dress off to show off my new swimsuit I bought just for this summer. Still looking down, I took my hair out of my bun and shook it like they do in the movies. I stood up straight and went over to him so we could go swim. We got to the edge of the pool and I looked at him to ask him something, and he pushed me in the pool. I went underwater, and when I came back up, Brentley was laughing and pointing. I looked down to my top floating in the water. I quickly grabbed it, held it to my body, and got out of the pool to run back to our stuff. I was almost in tears trying to tie it back on with a towel wrapped around me. I felt hands touch mine and grabbed the strings. After it was tied, I turned around to see Brentley standing there half smiling. He apologized, saying he did not know that was going to happen. He gave me a hug and asked if I wanted to go down the slide. I agreed, and as we started walking, he reached for my hand. I got butterflies, but for some reason it felt so right. We got to the slides, and thankfully there was not a line for either, so we were able to go down the slides at the same time. I beat him down by a second. He came down with a splash, and we laughed. We swam to the other side of the pool and started playing some pool games. We played Marco Polo, and he was it. When he caught me, he held me in his arms, and I just knew he was going to kiss me. Of course, however, my mom came at the wrong time to pick us up, so nothing happened. That was only a few weeks ago. We have not really interacted since then. Tonight it was late, and everyone was supposed to be asleep. I say supposed because our parents were asleep, but me and Brentley were not. I was on my laptop sitting on my bed. I was only wearing a t-shirt and underwear. I was listening to music when I heard a knock on my door. I got up and cracked the door. "Brentley?" I whispered, puzzled. I could not sleep, figured we could talk for a while like we used to. I grabbed my robe and let him in. We both sat crisscross across from each other on my bed. He was only in his boxers and nothing else. I was trying so hard not to look down. I could feel my face getting red and hot. He was just staring at me. "Are you okay?" I asked. He smiled and said somewhat excitedly, "Yes, I am great to be honest, and since I'm being honest, it is because of you. Look, ever since I met you, I knew something was there. I never said or did anything because I did not think you felt the same way. But that day at the pool, I saw how hurt you were, and I felt horrible. But when I went over to help you, you seemed to immediately calm down, and that's when I knew if I was going to make a move, I needed to do it. He held my hands and was looking at them. I have never been so close to someone as I am with you. I think I'm in love with you, Nora. My eyes went wide, and I opened my mouth to say something, but nothing would come out. Finally, he leaned in and kissed me. I grabbed his face and pulled him closer and kissed him harder. We pulled away, and I whispered, panting, I love you too, Brentley. He kissed me again and wrapped his arms around me. I cannot believe this is happening. I waited so long for this to happen, and finally. We started kissing harder and longer. I could feel one hand move from my back to my hair and gently grab it. Music playing in the background. It was a perfect setup. The love was there, the passion. Everything about this was perfect. Until we heard his dad knocking on the door asking for me to turn down the music and to go to bed. We stopped both hot and bothered, smiling at each other with the feeling that we almost got caught. He got up to go back to his room, and I asked him to sleep in here with me. He smiled and got under the covers with me. I smiled as I fell asleep cuddling the love of my life. The next morning when we woke up, it was like a dream. He gave me a kiss and called me baby. He got up and sneaked back to his room to get dressed. I got up and put on a bra and shorts and headed to the kitchen. Breakfast and coffee was made, which only happens when our parents are going on another work trip. We would have the house to ourselves again. We would not have to hide it anymore. But we also knew that eventually we would have to tell our parents. After they left, I wanted to pick up where we left off last night. I told Brentley to meet me in the shower with a sexy grin. He did not question it, thank God. I went upstairs and turned on the water. I got undressed and got in. A couple of minutes passed and I heard the door open. Brentley got in and looked shy. I looked at him confused and asked him why. He said he was a virgin and did not know what to do. Of course, me being from last night, I told him not to worry about it and to just follow my lead. I started kissing him and grabbing his face, holding him close. I told him to pace himself and wait for the bedroom. He chuckled inside. We got out and went to my bedroom. He finally did it. I kissed him one more time before getting off. I laid next to him, both of us panting. He looked at me, kissed me, and said we need to tell our parents. We produced a whole plan with a slideshow and reasons, pros and cons. We were prepared for their return. Once they came home, we told them we had something to tell them. I was nervous just being in the room with them. I took my stepbrother's virginity. We both took a deep breath and Brentley started it off. We told them that we loved each other and that we are now dating. They were both shocked and I think a little bit pissed. They did not say anything more, but be careful, and that technically we are not family. We got away with something that I did not think was possible. We both looked at each other and smiled. I got the love of my life, even if it is my stepbrother.